Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So here's the deal. You can see the title already. I have come to understand the origins of this. I am aware now that the origins of the fight in between black men and black women, really the Western gender war, period, not just limited to black folks, comes from the occult. But I'm not going to connect those dots for you now. I'm going to start by telling you all that another man has done the research and compiled it, and it is his right to present and connect the dots because it is not only his thunder, but it is his lightning. Lightning does the work. I'm not going to steal his lightning, let alone steal his thunder. He's charged up the lightning. It is up to him. It is his right. Therefore, I'm going to leave it up to him, but I will tell you that that's where it will be connected. I'm only telling you that much in order to prepare you. Whether you believe in the devil or not, you do not sit up and cater to something that started with demon worship. It says something about you if you go for that. So anyway, let me get back to this topic here. CJ NBM wants a strong black family, and I would like to see that too, but I know that that's not going to be possible in a Western context. It's possible, but not in a Western context. Also, he asked a question. Where did I get the 87% failure rate stat from? I got it from Mumia Obsidian Ali. He got it from a dating website that did a study, and I can't remember which one it was, but Mumia Obsidian Ali quoted this years ago. I believe in 2019 he quoted that. And I always remembered it. 87% failure rate. That would be unacceptable in any job. Nobody would be allowed to stay in a job if it had an 87% failure rate, unless, of course, there was just no better way. And we men know that we either subconsciously or we consciously know that the reason why our cold approaches have an 87% failure rate is because women are spoiled for choice. See, where I live, women know that if they're approached for marriage, they're not going to always be approached. They know that they can decline a man, but they also know that if they sit up here and they decline 4 men, they're lucky they had 4 options. They're not lucky that 4 men liked what they saw when they saw them, but they're lucky that 4 men came to their father's door and opened up discussions about marriage. This is important to understand. I'm going to read to you now what one of my subscribers and commentators said underneath my first video addressed to you, CJ NBM. That video is entitled CJ NBM and Men's Real Mistake. Busyrand explained something. Now, I've hit the love button on it, but I've not responded to his comment, but I plan on pinning this. Give me a moment. All right, so here goes. He said to me, well said. The overarching conspiracy to price gouge men by not letting us know if when they like us is a very real thing. After I pledged a fraternity for my sophomore year, I saved my money, planned out a new wardrobe, and switched my look to the optimal things I knew women liked. Brother, when I say the BWs on campus got angry with me, it is absolutely no exaggeration. I was still the same humble nerd football player. However, they were forced to reevaluate my position in the pecking order. My primary intent in college was to find my wife as I pushed myself academically. If I had not opened myself to women of other cultures, I have not had any relationship experience during my entire time in university. My only dating experience with a palm-colored woman was with a billionaire heiress. Her dad owned a boutique insurance firm that covered vintage cars, yachts, and private aircraft. She had movie star good looks, 9 SMV with a mild athletic build. Everyone knew, liked her, but nobody could get anywhere with her. She clocked my position on campus and approached me on the academic quad. In front of everyone, flirted, then asked me out. I hope I didn't lose you when I was reading this, CJ NBM. But actually, you're pretty good at paying attention at the very least. Mostly to the rest of my audience, I hope I didn't lose any of you all. This man, Busyrand, just told me in a public comment, so I'm not telling his business. He just told us in a public comment that while sisters were upset that he actually increased his own SMV in their eye, they were mad at him for doing it. Then a palm-colored woman, billionaire heiress, 9 SMV, approached him, flirted with him in front of everyone, asked him out. He goes on to say, our date was the nicest time I've ever had with a woman. She catered to me completely. Wait a minute, she got all this and she catered? Okay. I thought we black men were dusty. I thought we ain't nothing, but okay, he goes on to say, months later, not years, months later, she introduced me to her parents on the field after the homecoming football game. She called my name, split the crowd, hooked my arm, and told the parents, I want you to meet, fill in the blank. I mean, he put the name in, but I'm not gonna read it out loud like this. She spouted 3 minutes of facts about me, my parents and their occupations, awards, strength records, and the fact that I was the research assistant the chairman of the chemistry department was bragging about over lunch the previous day. The significance is her dad and the chairman and the department chair were friends from Harvard, meaning that I was already vetted and observed for over a year. Her dad stepped forward, he shook my hand, double gripped, placed his hand on my shoulder as her mother remarked about how impressive she thought I was, coupled with the fact that I was the first and only person her daughter ever introduced them to her entire life. She vetted me for marriage, the way upper class people date with intention and vet each other. My point is I was attractive enough for someone of the American royal class to choose and vet, but I still couldn't get a fair shot with the lovely sisters on campus. I was so steadfast and focused on giving our lovely ladies the right of first refusal that I didn't process this moment and a few other. There was another time a girl was upset she didn't get a chance to bid on a date with me in our annual charity dinners and dates auction with $3,000 in cash, until I did a couple rounds of therapy and meditation that allowed me to rediscover things that I hadn't paid attention to. My life would be completely different in terms of simple plus-minus analysis. The last straw for me was when I realized how unfair my approach was on high quality. Women of other cultures after a more recent experience during a train ride next to a statuesque Russian polyglot distance runner, 8 SMV triple Ds. Now, CJ NBM, you and I understand that with sisters, if they get just single Ds, they got attitude. I mean, now, if they got single Ds and their gut is a double D, then maybe not. But you and I know if they don't have a gut and they got single Ds, they got oh my, you know how that is. And look what this man is saying. She asked if she could sit next to me and we talked nonstop for 18 hours. She was from a successful family of attorneys with 3 farms along the East Coast. I turned down these women due to my unrequited loyalty to a populace of women who've been spiteful towards me due to their willful adherence to negative social programming. That's the end of his comment. I didn't read this because one person's comment changes reality. I'm one of those that believes that the exception does not change the rule. I'm reading this, sir, because this is actually the most recent one. I'm also reading this because in my own account, when I logged in to my YouTube account, you know how you can see comments that have been held for review. But lately what's happened is that some of my comments aren't even showing up as being held for review. And then a day later, they just pop up in the regular comment section. This is one of those. He left it yesterday. I could not see it till today. I know, I checked. So it popped up and became visible to me and to most of my subscribers. Anyone in the audience that reads the comments underneath can now see this with me having done nothing. But the point is that it popped up just in time enough for me to record this and tell you about it. I understand that you want a strong black family structure in the United States. I get that. Because believe me, as a Muslim, I certainly want to see a strong family structure, period, especially for us and for groups of people that have had it stripped away from you, naturally. Problem is, you got to understand, you're just going to have to accept the reality that the black American woman And that goes too for the Bahamians, the Jamaicans, and the Trinidadians too, because their men have said the same thing. They've reported the same thing. The Black Canadians, the Black British women, their men and the women have said the same thing. You're going to have to accept the fact that the family structure is undermined not by the men. That was a myth. The CDC did their own study in 2015 and showed that in fact, we're the ones that value it. The weakness of it has come from them. As a matter of fact, a short time ago, someone told me that someone who knows me in person told me that I should do a mentoring program for the youth. Now, mind you, I know she was talking about back in the States. I don't live in the West, let alone the United States. I haven't lived there for almost 8 years. I don't plan on it again. God forbid I ever have to. But I had to say to her, listen, even if I was there, even if I lived there to do something like that, I would have to tell these men things about things that their mothers would not approve of me disclosing to them. I don't remember what she was going to say next because we got interrupted. But the point is that in order to mentor, I was going to have to tell the youth that much of the reason for the weakness of the family structure was the choices their mothers made in who to screw, not the choices in who their dads made and who to marry. If that was the case, we would have known about it because that's what was said all the time. I mean, we've been painted badly for generations. And it's so ingrained that even many of us black men have bought the programming. We fell for it. And then the CDC had to exonerate us accidentally in one regard. And then other demographics, statistics had to exonerate us in others. We were supposed to be the bums, remember? Well, this man, he came across a white American woman, billionaire heiress, and a highly successful Russian American that could see his value. Do you see where I'm going with this? I'm not saying that these men should have run and messed with the palm color women like that, because at some point that would have jumped out of them too. That Miss Andrew would have jumped out of them because at some point they would have been trained for it. But again, you're saying that men should go ahead and continue to make cold approaches. When I preach male chastity, it comes from my faith, but there are practical benefits to it, and one of them is men do not make approaches just to date or to fornicate. Now that forces the men and the women to start thinking about what they're doing. It forces both of them to choose better when marriage is on the table or it's not, and nothing else is on the table. It forces both of them to start really thinking about what they're doing. And to be honest with you, in the African American Muslim community, a lot of times women ain't thinking about it. It's still misandry and you need to prove that you're not a bum and all this other stuff. And this is upheld not just by the ladies. Oftentimes this is upheld by the men that the women have doing the vetting of the other man. The wali or the wakil. And if you live in the Northeast, you probably heard these terms before, but the male, either related male or an appointed male, who's going to vet the men who tried to marry her is referred to as either the wali or the wakil. And in either case, what I'm getting at is that even those men will turn around and uphold these same standards because they believe that black men are bums. While not being bums, they believe that black men are bums. So even when these men do make these approaches, that still, it runs through their mind, well, you need to show me that you're not just some poop butt bum. Okay, well, I mean, that's fine. The problem is it never occurs to them to vet the woman as well, and that's part of the job. What if she's not adequate? I had to do this with a cousin of mine that was Muslim when she was getting ready to get married. I told her, look, I'll vet him as best I possibly can, whatever info I can find on him. I didn't find much on him, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I look back and regret that. But the thing is, I told this man here, I'm going to vet my cousin too, because if she's not adequate for you, I'm going to tell you and her. Because that's what's fair. Because you're not automatically coming in here with a negative value because you're the guy. It's not just what you have to prove. No, it's about what both of you got to prove. You both got to prove compatibility. And see, nobody told you this. That's because nobody talked about male chastity to you, probably. And you're not the only one. You're one of countless black men in not just America, but in the West, to whom no one has ever said that you actually have a value, even just underneath your pants. And therefore, you're like, well, I got to make the approach even if she's jacked up, even if 90% of them are jacked up, I got to make the approach and prove that I'm not afflicted like they are. So now you're sitting up and saying that it should, the approaches should be easy, and you're saying that it's really not a big deal, and if they're uninterested, you just keep on moving and have a nice day and keep going. Well, that's elementary. I mean, of course. The problem, sir, is this. They're socially incentivized to nuclearly shoot you down in front of witnesses or in front of cell phone cameras. They get high fives from each other for that. Now, how do we know this? Well, let's look at Malcolm X. He wrote his autobiography. He is the one that famously said, and sisters love to quote him, he said the black woman's the most unprotected woman in the world. He was talking in the 60s when they weren't doing in public what we see men and women, but mostly the ladies doing in public nowadays, like twerking in restaurants, things like that. Sending out a message that they don't need protection, right? Okay, now he said this back then before what was publicly acceptable became public, what is publicly acceptable now became publicly acceptable. They love to quote him. Okay, all right, they quote him. He also said that one of the reasons why he preached so hard against them and their attitudes was because of how rough they were on men. Now, this is back then. He said, and he quoted them saying to each other, I told that chump get lost. It's not, he didn't blame them for having a choice, having a preference, and choosing. He blamed them for bragging to each other about how they tell somebody to get lost. And what I said is a quote. If you looked up that quote and put that quote in and then comma Malcolm X, it probably would come up. I forgot what chapter in the autobiography it was, but it was there. What I'm saying to you, sir, is that there's a very long, vast reason. And this man, who like you, as far as I know, is not Muslim, has said that even for him, there's no reason to continue making these approaches within the community. He just sat up and explained why. Women that would traditionally have been the enemy see more value in him than the ones with whom you want to build a strong black family. So when I say that Islam is the solution, well, I mean, goodness, this is one of the things it prevents. Men sitting up here trying to validate the manhood with the exact same group of women that want to invalidate their manhood. Male chastity does wonders. Believe me, it does. There's a reason we fast 30 days, minimum 30 days out the year. Well, sometimes it's 29 depending on how long that lunar month is, but you get the idea that the requirement is one of the months out the year. There's a reason for it. Makes male chastity easy, actually. So, if you intent on building this strong black family, and that's fine, you can't be. You don't have to do what I said. I mean, not just you, anybody would. You're going to have to ditch the Wicked Witch of the West. White or black, feminism and misandry comes from both of them. There are plenty of sisters on the continent. There are plenty of sisters in Latin America. If you are ADOS loyal, then understand that the ADOS woman is going to use that against you. So, if you were stuck in the West and you cannot marry the mother of your children, then maybe, actually, you know what? If that is the case, then you're in a bind. Not just you, anyone is. If that's the situation, you can't get out the West and you can't marry the mother of your children, then you're in a bind, sir. And I'll tell you how you know. Let's look at the women that are saying the same things that not only I'm saying, but that others in my camp, on my side of the fence, are saying. Pink Book Lessons is exposing the games that women play. Red Femme Diaries is exposing the games that they play. Red Femme Diaries understands that her sons have a very slim chance of finding someone that is decent, white or black, in the West. She knows this. Crimson Cure, Kendra D, also known as DJ Fish Grease. She's saying the same things. She would like to see a strong black family like you, but she knows why it's not going to happen. Okay? That's not all. New on the scene, Melanie King. She's saying the same things. Let's look at them. Now, if Crimson, because see, the two that show themselves are Melanie King and Crimson Cure. if they were younger and they were saying the same thing, if they were of optimal marriage age and they were saying the same things that they are saying now, trying to correct the ladies, and they showed their faces, they would get killed, and it wouldn't be by men. They would get murked by some women. Now, Jessica X has an avatar, but I think she showed her face, if I'm not mistaken, to someone. I can't remember, but I think she may have shown her face to somebody. Some people have said, oh yeah, it turns out she was quite nice looking. Well, why would she do that in the UK, which is a bigger hotbed? Well, that's because even though gun crime is becoming more common in the UK, it's still pretty rare. It's more so knife crime. But even then, I mean, they're just not as violent there. So that's probably why. But you know, in the States, where many people are armed, you know the danger that Crimson Cure and Melanie King, they're already in because they're talking this stuff. But imagine them being, let's say pre-wall, if you will. Imagine them being well pre-wall. And I'm not using the wall as an epithet, just natural age. But, you know, imagine them being well before that. Then being nice looking and saying the same things. They'd be killed. That's how hostile the demographic that you're telling us to continue to approach is to anything that is fair to you, sir. And that's why I say if you really want to build it, go to the continent, go to Latin America. Because right now, even the English-speaking Caribbean is a mess. They'll tell you about the Bahamas. I had 3 men from the Bahamas tell me how bad it is. They're subscribers of mine. Told me how up it is. I've heard Jamaican artists talking about how bad it is over there. A man from Trinidad told me how rough it is, and he's got screenshots to prove it. I can see it on his Facebook account. And God forbid you be a red dude over there. They openly tell you you're feminine. You act like your punani's better than mine. They will say this in Trinidad if you're a red guy. So it's bad, man. So these are the areas you're gonna have to go to. And if you find that it is just as bad on the continent, or in Latin America with the Afro-Latinas, then that means we don't have a hope. That means the biggest hope for a strong black family is just a black husband with a non-black wife. And that's not what you want. I'm neutral about that, but that's not what you want. We're just going to have to admit, sir, at some point, we're just going to have to admit that the Western sister, to me, this goes true for the Western woman in general. Even the Asians born and raised in the West, let alone the palm-colored ones. But we're going to have to admit that the Western sister is so bad, she does not deserve to be approached. She's a much better friend or cousin, or play cousin, relative of some type. And even then, how much game is she going to lace you up with if you are related to her? She's not going to. She'll lace her daughter up. She'll lace your sister up. They'll lace each other up with game to play on you, but they wouldn't lace you up even with the knowledge to avoid having these games played on you. They still prefer each other when they're not related over you when they're related to you, when it comes to that. That's the cold, hard truth. That's real. I wish it wasn't. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Now you know why I say black heterosexual non-select male power just because they don't like it. Because the ones they don't select, they're actually picking the best and eliminating them first, sir. The other thing too is this, before I close out finally. CJ, they're so bad at picking men, intentionally so, that if you were having a lot of success with the Western B-dub, it means something's wrong with you. It's not even anything to brag about. Everyone else knows this now. That's the other thing I wanted to point out. Not just you, CJ NBM, but any man. You succeed with large numbers of them, it's going to be because of something in you that is morally wrong, because that's what they're looking for. All right, so, like patriarchy till extinction or judgment day. Assalamu alaikum to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Till next time.